Hey Eric, so this is going to be one of those unplugged sessions, number 4 in the series.
Yeah.
And we were just chatting just offline before we hit the record button, and I introduced this concept called the grey zone. So I think today's episode would be a great place to start talking about this place called the grey zone.
The gray zone, that just sounds muddy. I don't like it. All right, well, more on that in a moment, but first.
Hello, I'm Steve.
And I'm Eric. And together we are two dads with one mission.
Welcome to the Allied Dads podcast. This is the show for dads, all about fatherhood, faith and freedom, one conversation at a time.
All right, Steve, so tell us more about this this thing called the gray zone.
Yeah,
By the way, I'm wearing a gray shirt. This was not planned.
Yeah, so Eric is literally in the gray zone. He's wearing it. No, Eric's far from the gray zone. Eric's far from the gray zone. So the gray zone, it's this place that most people live in. So as I start to describe what this gray zone is, some of these thoughts and characteristics of being in the gray zone, you might find that they really resonate with you. Okay, and what we'd like to do, I think it's our mission, two dads on one mission. Our mission on this episode is to get you to think outside the box, and maybe if you feel that, yeah, I'm the guy that's in the gray zone, to really think about taking that next step and moving yourself out of the gray zone. So what is the gray zone? The gray zone is this place of comfort and safety and normality that most people, so as you listen to this, most people, even like you, maybe in this gray zone. It's safety. It's the 9-to-5 job. It's doing the same thing over and over because it's safety. It's comfortable. You know everything that there is to know. You go to work 9 to 5. You come back and you take your salary every month. Yeah. You eat, sleep, and kind of rinse and repeat. Maybe you work really hard all year to save up for that 2-week vacation, that 2-week holiday, and then do the same thing over and over again the year after. So the gray zone is where life's comfortable. Sometimes we have challenges in the gray zone, but it's neither really, really bad or really, really good. It's almost like if you think of a little wave, it's like you've got an axis. You've got kind of you've got good and you've got bad. You're kind of in the gray zone as time,
but it's in that really narrow range.
Yeah, you bounce around in this gray zone between good and bad, and it never gets really, really bad or really, really good. You kind of just bounce around. Life's comfortable, but the thing is, when life's comfortable, we naturally get very complacent, and we're less likely to seek change. So we stay in the gray zone.
Almost to the point where we see change as a negative, right? I know that. Okay, so first of all, full disclosure here. I lived in the gray zone for a lot of years. And I was miserable, knowingly miserable for a lot of years.
Yeah.
I've often said, I'm currently 56. I've often said that I should have become self-employed when I was in my late teens or early 20s. And I made some attempts, but they were kind of feeble and they weren't supported by anybody around me. And so it just fizzled out. And I just went, that comfort zone is so attractive, right? And
it is. It's
I learned early on I was good at sales, and sales typically pays pretty well. And so I was making good money, but I just lived in that gray zone. I wasn't living an inspired life. Back then I didn't know what my values are. I had no mission statement written down, and I was just making good money. I had good insurance, and life sucked. Like it literally just sucked the inspiration out of me. And I just was existing,
Eric, my story mirrors yours.
Yeah.
I was in that gray zone for a long time too. Like most of our listeners will have either been in the gray zone, and if you're no longer in the gray zone, congratulations, well done. Yeah. You've taken that leap of faith, that next step, and that's awesome. If you're still in the gray zone, and carry on listening. But my story mirrors yours. I was in that gray zone for a long time, and I'm reminded of some stats as well. So statistics, and there are some statistics. I can't quote the referenceability of them, but they're out there. But it's something like the suicide rate in young working males
Oh, it's the highest of any demographic.
It's the highest of any demographic, and the day of the week where the most suicides take place and the time of the day is Monday mornings.
Yeah, isn't that something? There's
It's something that, and I joke about it, but like people are just dying to get to work. Think about that.
Trust me, I've had those kind of strong feelings of like that dread of, you know, it would start Sunday afternoon sometimes. Certainly by Sunday night, it was like, you know, I can't stand it, you know. So how do you, okay, so, you know, as allied dads, you know, we're on a mission to help men kind of realize who they really are and kind of, you know, maximize their life in some way. Now, we also acknowledge not everybody's meant to be self-employed or an entrepreneur or something like that. And so I have total respect for that. Maybe you love your job, and look, I'm happy for you. But if you don't,
I agree. I
if
agree
you
with
don't, this episode's not necessarily for you. This episode is for that guy that is, he knows he goes into work pissed off.
Yeah, yeah.
Pissed off, hating the world, and knows maybe he has some ideas. Okay, but there's maybe nobody around that's supporting him. Like if he told the wife, hey, I'm thinking about, you know, doing a side gig, or, you know, quitting my job to do this or whatever, and the wife freaks out, right? That's an issue.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, what I really want to give our listeners with this episode is, if this is you, if you're resonating with what we are saying and you're in that gray zone, there is a way to get out. It may, you know, don't think, oh, it's going to happen in 90 days. It might take you 2 years, but one of the things that can really help your mindset is to start developing a plan.
Yeah.
You know, start asking yourself questions like, how do I get out? Not saying statements to yourself like, I can't get out, there's no way, right? Start asking yourself open-ended questions like, how do I get out? What could I do? You know, again, we often mention values. If you really know what you want in life, if there's any area of life that you're passionate about, then pursue it and develop a plan of how you can follow that and make an income.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's what we're encouraging you to do. I did this, and about 11 years ago, and it, you know, it was scary, but it was, you know, I also had a process. But there came a point where, and I've talked about this in previous episodes, but where the way I describe it is I jumped off a cliff.
Yeah.
And what that kind of equates to in today's episode is that I was literally taking a huge step outside of the gray zone and never looking back.
Yeah, it's that leap of faith.
Yeah. And so again, if that's you and you are struggling with that, you know, outside of this episode, if you want to talk to one of us, if you want to get some further insight or whatever, we'd be glad to do that. It kind of leads into the next episode that we're going to be doing. I don't want to give away too much now, but oftentimes who you put around you will affect whether or not you're ever going to get out of the gray zone. Because if everybody around you is saying, no, stay with the job, stay with the security, stay with the comfort, you know, status quo, or I should say the status quo, whatever that is in your life, that's your biggest enemy. That's the thing that's always going to be the wall to you going beyond and living a more inspired life.
It is those people, I call them the dream busters.
Yeah.
They just burst those dream bubbles. And I'm reminded of a quote. I can't remember exactly who the quote is by, but it's really fitting. And the quote is, you know, only those prepared to go, what is it? Only those prepared to go so far will know how far they will go. Something similar to that.
Yeah, I get the sentiment of that.
Yeah.
And that
only
that
those
speaks to vision.
Only those
right?
prepared to go that far will find how far they can go. There it is. That's a better version of it.
Yeah, we should write that down and put it in the show notes. That kind of presumes a certain amount of vision.
Yeah.
You know, and so if all the people around you, if your friends, you know, are just happy to drink beer and whatever, and that's all they want to do. And then you try to bring up, hey, I'm gonna try to do something outside of this little box I live in. Everybody's gonna try to put the lid back on.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you gotta, if you're ever gonna have a chance, you've either got to learn to stand on your own, or put some people around you that are going to encourage your, maybe your vision's just in its infancy, right? But if it's there, get some people around you that will help you grow that thing into something bigger.
yeah. And if this resonates with you, if you're thinking, yeah, that's me, I'm in the gray zone, but I'm in this job and I really don't like the job. I don't want to be there. But what can I do? So the kind of questions that you should be asking yourself is, find some space, find some headspace where you can go and just relax for half an hour and do some real good quality thinking, and ask yourself a couple of really important questions. And the important questions are, right, what am I really passionate about? What excites me? And what am I passionate about? That's the first good question. And the second good question is, what am I really good at? What skills and skill set do I have? And somewhere in the middle, it's almost like if you draw two circles, and in one circle, it's like, what am I passionate and enthusiastic about? And in the other circle, right, what am I really good at? What are my skills?
Yep.
I'm surmising that in the middle, where those two circles overlap, there'll be something in the middle where you have a skill or something that you're good at, of doing something that excites you and you're passionate about.
Yeah, and you can
That
kind of
may
marry
be
those two things.
explore, right? Can I turn that into entrepreneurship, into a business, into a side gig? Can I use my skills to do something that excites me and I'm passionate about?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And it's a practical way to put some things down on paper, and have a brainstorming session with yourself, because you may realize, like, I didn't really even think I didn't think about these skills, or I haven't thought about this passion in a long time. Maybe you'll start to, because something about the gray zone is that it's a very sleepy place.
It is.
And your brain has just gone into neutral. And so when you start writing some things down and you start thinking, oh, what did I used to be passionate about? And you'll start waking up things within yourself.
Yeah, the gray zone, obviously, it's almost like it freezes people with fear.
Yeah.
And they're so fearful of what's outside of the gray zone, that fear freezes them and keeps them in the gray zone. And it's infectious.
Yeah.
The longer you spend in the gray zone, the harder it is to get out of it.
It's been said a lot of different ways, but the idea that the greatest things in your life are on the other side of fear. And if you don't ever kind of get past your fears, well, get comfortable with the gray zone, because you're going to be stuck.
Yeah, we're getting to the stage where we need to wrap this episode up, Eric. But what I want to do is I want to just share with our audience here and our listeners. I want to just bust probably the number one myth out there, because I know what's going to happen is you're gonna do a brainstorm. You might even draw those two circles out, find something that excites you and you're passionate, and where your skills meet in the middle, and think, yeah, I could do that as a maybe a business or a side gig. And then you're going to basically get sucked back into that infectious, intoxicating gray zone, and it's going to suck all the energy and the inspiration out of you, because you're going to say these famous words to yourselves. I'm not good enough, and there are other people out there who are better than me.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, here's the myth, right? You only need to be one step ahead of anybody else out there to basically sell your idea, your inspiration, your business, your service to them. You just need to be one step ahead. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be a guru. You don't need to be in that trade for 20 years. You just need to know the next step that they don't yet know, and you will have a customer.
Let me give a real tight example of that. When I jumped off the cliff, as I often refer, it was into building websites. And I had technical acumen. Okay. I was comfortable with technology, but I'd never built a website in my life. I spent a few months studying and looking, and kind of getting myself up to speed. But I was only that one step ahead of the clients that I started bringing on. And like, my entire life was just figuring things out as I went, but I knew just enough to talk to people and create some confidence. And I started selling websites, and that was my path out of the gray zone.
Yeah, yeah. And to quote the title of a previous episode, Eric, you just got to get in the game. You got to get in the game, get out of the gray zone, and take that first step, remembering that you only need to know the very next step. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to know one piece of information that your potential audience, you know, with your entrepreneurial idea doesn't yet know, and you will have clients coming to you in abundance.
Right. Okay, well, look, our next episode is going to be entitled, "You Don't Beat the 5 People You Spend the Most Time With." Okay, so we're going to dive deeper into this thing that we've referenced here on this episode, and maybe that'll help you kind of further your thoughts about who you're surrounding yourself with and how they're affecting your mindset and your, ability to get out of the gray zone. So where do people go to find out more about us, Steve?
Yeah, our website. So again, open your favorite browser and type in www.allieddads.com. You will find us there. If you've got any suggestions or ideas for future topics, or you want to just connect with us, and maybe one of our episodes has resonated with you and want to have a more in-depth conversation, that's how you can contact us.
Sounds good. I think that's it.
That's certainly it. So again, just remember to hit those bell buttons and subscribe buttons. You'll find us on your favorite streaming channels, including YouTube.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to go get out of the gray zone.
I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, bye-bye.